Hello, this is Chris Sartorial. This is part 2 of my princess seams demonstration, in which I'll be drafting a princess seam that curves into the armhole.
Okay, for a princess seam that diverts up into the armhole, which you commonly see, there are a few more challenges than one that goes into the shoulder, and I'll show them. Actually, it's a little more challenging in the back than the front, and you'll see why. But like before, I have taken our fitted block and rotated the bust dart to a position approximately 4 inches down from the shoulder seam. Now again, that particular measurement is arbitrary. It can be higher or lower depending on your design. I've also shortened it a 1/4 inch from the apex, which is the same as the waist dart. And again, it's just a matter now of connecting these darts together. And it goes pretty much the same except for a few exceptions. I'm going to go ahead and line my ruler up along the waist dart and connect it to the bottom hem. And here where I'm going to join the waist dart to the bust dart for a princess seam that goes into the armhole. I don't usually like it to go right on the apex because then they often looks like it's leaning forward. So I'm going to measure a point about 3/8 of an inch outside of the apex. And I'm going to draw my line through that point instead of through the real apex, but starting at the waist, pretty much following the dart. And then as I get close to this apex line, I'm going to curve to my new point and then continue curving slightly until I reach the point at the armhole. My new apex point is here. And for my side panel, again, starting at the waist, curving, and then gradually curving to nothing at the apex point. And the same from apex to armhole. Here we go. And just like before, I'm going to add notches. One either side, about 1.5 inches either side of my new apex point on the center panel. And just like before, I'm going to measure from armhole point to notch, 3 7/8, and carry that notch to the side panel. And from waist to notch, just under 6, and the same here. And at this point, I'm really done, aside from cutting these apart and adding seam allowance. What I'm not going to do in this case is slash and spread this side panel. Why? Because I am wide of the apex. If I were to slash and spread this, I'd actually in fact be moving my apex fullness outward. And that's wrong. You don't want to do that. You'll find again that this measurement between notches on your center panel is slightly
longer
than between the notches on your side panel. And as you're sewing this, you'll simply want to ease that little bit in. For the back, we have a challenge with the shoulder dart. You notice I haven't rotated it into the armhole, because right now I need to draft this side panel, and I just need my shoulder dart out of the way. So I'm going to make a point. I'm going to make it slightly higher in the back, but not much higher. Let's say make it 3 3/4. It can be in the same position, or even lower. And I need to draw a line now connecting and curving the waist dart to the armhole. Now if you have a shallow curved French curve, that can work for you. I'm going to try to use this one. Now I need to draw a line from the inside of this dart. Again, I'll take the same curve, and I'm only going to start down here. There. And I need to add some notches. I'll put a notch, maybe 1.5 inches. There. And like I did on the other one, I'll come up a certain distance. Let's make it like before, 7 inches. And a double notch. The same on the side panel seam. Same distance. Crazy about that curve, but it'll do. Now, oh, I forgot to do this. Now I need to cut these apart. Okay, I could leave it like this, add my seam allowances on the inside and around, and just leave the shoulder dart where it is. That might be the easiest to do. But I can also pivot at least some of this dart into
the princess seam.
I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave some of it at the shoulder. Let's see how much we can get in there. Cut to it there. Tolerate a tiny bit, only a certain amount of ease between these notches, maybe about 1/4 inch. So I'm just gonna rotate a scant 1/8 inch into my princess seam. That leaves me about 3/8 inch here at the shoulder, and that should be enough for me to ease into the front shoulder when I'm sewing without having to have a dart easing in is something that works better in some fabrics than it does in others. So I'll probably want to use a slightly more supple fabric when cutting this out and sewing it. But that's what I'm going to do now. Here are the front panels. I've added the seam allowances and an extension at the front, as you can see. I thought I'd point out to you that in the case of this seam, you might need to square your seam allowances off where your princess seam meets the armhole, and make sure that when you line them up that the ends of your corners match. That helps with matching these up when you're sewing. You typically have to do that when you have an angled seam that intersects with another seam. But I'm ready now to cut out my fabric and sew these up. Okay, here is the blouse all sewn up. As you can see, hopefully, I have the princess seam going into the shoulder on the right side of the form, and going into the armhole on the left. Both are looking quite nice. There's the back. They're both quite flattering seam lines on a fitted blouse, jacket, or dress. If you try these out, let me know how it works for you. And thanks for watching.